Nithyananda. Welcome to End Youth Counseling. Welcome to our first show, and we'd like to thank you for joining us, but also we'd like to thank all the young people for writing in to us. So my name is Chandra Vimala, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I have a bachelor in child and youth, and I also have a master's in counseling. So I've been a grief counselor for quite a long time, and I also did a couple of years with my practicum through masters of a college of art and design. So I worked with a lot of young people with a lot of their issues and difficulties. So I'm very excited to be part of this program. I think it's really needed, and that we are able to have some place for young people to be able to talk about their difficulties or any conflict that they're having, and that we are able to kind of deal with specific things that are happening in your life. So we're going to have guest speakers, and so what you're writing in, we'll be able to talk about those topics. I'll be talking about specific ones as well, but it's nice, and we're really thankful to have some amazing guest speakers that will be coming in. So we are going to be kind of targeting between the ages of about 13 to 30, and it's really a program about empowerment. We want you to have a conflict-free, blissful life. Right now, how the program is kind of set up is that you send in your emails, and we will be addressing every one of them. And so it's nyouth@nithyananda.org, and that will come up on the screen, so you'll know kind of what to write in on. The reason also that we've brought this program together is that, we've been looking at some statistics, and a lot of it was quite astounding, even for me being kind of in the counseling background for a long time, that I was quite surprised at some of the numbers, and I just wanted to discuss some of that with you. But a lot of times we feel that young people are always talking with their peers, and probably the least with their parents. But really, statistics show that a lot of times when they're worried about something, they don't talk with their peers. They feel that it may be a silly question, or they may be kind of scrutinized with it or made fun of. And sometimes it's hard to talk with parents. It's hard when you're close with family members to maybe talk about some things that are happening with you. And so what happens with a lot of youth is that they hold it in. And with that and holding in those types of things that are happening, we have a lot of things that are in repercussion of that. And that means that sometimes it'll be overeating, sometimes drinking alcohol, sometimes having unhealthy relationships. And so depression comes out of that. And so I just wanted to kind of show you some of the statistics that are kind of happening, and how much sometimes the increase is happening. So a Harvard study showed that the rate of depression among children were increasing by about 23% a year. And that's an increase in antidepressants. And what really surprised me a lot was children kind of 5 and younger, kind of the preschool, were also kind of having an increase of antidepressants. And they're kind of becoming the growth that's in use of antidepressants. And although I know that this program is around the youth of 13 to 30, it's kind of indicating to us that, even younger, there's a lot of things that are being held inside. And there's obviously, we're kind of losing our true nature. And so we're trying to, again, address those issues and being able to talk about them. We had kind of a huge difficulty around obesity. And a lot of times what happens around that is that when young people are holding things in and not being able to talk, eating is sometimes something that feels good inside. Unfortunately, it only lasts a very short period of time, and so that's where people continue to eat. And so the obesity rate globally is over like 20 million children. And so we also have, in regard to that, is a lot of sleep deprivation and having difficulty with sleeping. Sometimes we don't realize that when we have problems with sleeping, it can cause problems with our learning. It can cause problems in our memory, thinking and feeling. But we also have, which is about poor school and work performance. And really, it also causes a lot of difficulty in our relationships. So that's kind of a lot of repressions that are happening that sometimes we don't even realize is going on for ourselves, and we can kind of beat ourselves up about what's going on, and it's a little confusing for a lot of young people. I think the big thing that we have been really concerned about is the rise in the media use of the games and the virtual games, and using kind of our email and our Blackberries. it ends up that it's close to 11 hours of worth of media content in kind of a 7.5 hour time. And I don't know how we all get into that, but it's getting up to 11 hours. That's a long time of using media devices. And sometimes what happens is that we have trouble communicating if we're always into a computer. I was just saying when I come from Canada, and that, you know, I was having lunch and there was a bunch of young people around me and they were emailing each other. They weren't even speaking with each other. And what happens is that we've just forgotten what our true nature is, that we are social beings and we can't speak with each other. So there's a lot of things that are continuing that, you know, that are happening that are just kind of becoming unhealthy choices. And so again, the reason that we've kind of brought this forward, and we wanted to talk about issues and difficulties that people are having, and that we're able to kind of deal with them in a healthy manner. The wonderful thing about this program and why it's so special is that we're also having an enlightened master that's dealing and having these teachings. So what better way is having an enlightened master helping us deal with these types of situations? So it is why this show is very special. Our first show is about communication, and a lot of the emails were talking about, you know, why I'm having such difficulty talking with my parents, and, you know, I'm having a lot of anger issues, and I feel like there's conflict and I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know why I'm having trouble talking. Sometimes they're going into interviews and they're not being able to express themselves, and so we're really fortunate actually to have at the ashram someone that has over 15 years of experience under corporate and commercial, but she's a communication specialist, and so she actually oversees all of our training here. And so we are really fortunate to have her as our first guest. And we are really fortunate, and thank you, Mama Nisha, for being here.
Thank you.
So, Mama Nisha is actually the head of training at the ashram, and just before she came to the ashram, she's actually had 15 years of experience around the corporate area, and she's a communication and training specialist, and she's worked with multinational companies. So again, we are really fortunate that she can come in and answer a lot of questions around communication. So again, thank you.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure, and it's a great privilege to be sharing today with all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So we always hear the word communication, and I don't think we've ever stepped back to really wonder, like, what exactly is communication? So can you explain a little bit about what exactly that means?
Sure. Usually what we consider as communication, we do think about communication a lot. And we know that there are so many online courses, there are so many programs, there are so many institutions which offer communication courses. And a lot of people, especially the youth today, go for these courses and look at getting trained into communication. But I think the essential thing which most of us probably do not even know is that communication is not about speaking at all. Contrary to the belief where people use more and more language, get trained in, for example, English or into the choice of words to use, actually communication is not about speaking at all. I would say communication is only given by listening.
Oh, so listening.
Yeah, so effective listening is effective communication.
So when you're listening, I guess I'm a little confused what that means then, because, you know, if you're communicating, you're thinking about talking and being, and so what is that about then listening?
That's right. So usually when we say again listening, the word itself is again misunderstood for almost all of us. When I say listening, you only kind of think that you're just listening to the words or what is being said. You think that you are listening, but listening is actually a completely, totally different skill in its own. Listening is about not only you getting the words of the other person, but you getting the world of the other person. So when you are listening effectively, you're actually completely in the other person's world, completely understanding and internalizing not only what the other person is sharing through words and language, but also a lot which the other person is not sharing. You know?
So that's maybe why it becomes such a difficult thing to communicate.
Exactly. Because this important factor of listening is completely absent in the communication which we have in the world today. Nobody is ready to listen to the other. Everyone is in a hurry to speak and speak and speak. And as Swamiji very beautifully says, communication really never happens between two individuals. Because all that is happening when one is talking is the other is strategizing, is already preparing what to talk next. It's like, you're lost in your own world throughout the communication, throughout the interaction. And absolutely, you actually miss the communication because of that.
That makes a lot of sense, because a lot of times I can get really frustrated where I'm trying to get my point across and people are, it's like they're not listening.
Yes.
Like I'm trying to kind of continue and I repeat myself.
Yes.
And I'm getting frustrated with them because they aren't hearing me.
Yes.
But actually when you're talking about that, it's like it's the other way around.
Yes. Actually what happens, Chandra, to share a little bit more on this, why don't you listen? Is again, it's like a paradox. You don't listen to the other because you're listening to your own voice. You're listening to your own ideas. You're listening, or you're always with what you consider as right, what you consider as wrong, your own perceptions and notions about everything in life. So the day you are trained or skilled in not listening to yourself, you are actually listening to the other. So only when you let go of what you think is right, when you let go of what is happening inside you, will you have the space, will you open up to what's happening in the other's world. And then starts communication. Communication literally begins with you shutting off from your inside and absolutely being open to listen to what's happening outside you.
How do you do that?
That's the $1 million question, I guess. Well, there are a lot of techniques which can enhance and help you listen. But it really starts with, again, if you look at what happens inside you, you will see that all that you're listening to, all that you're getting stuck inside is thoughts, more thoughts and more thoughts. The more you're thinking, the more thoughts happen in you, the more words happen inside you, and the more you're stuck inside your own world. So really the first step for effective listening is for you to become empty, or you to kind of disconnect with the thought process that's continuously happening in you. And this is what Swamiji beautifully explains as the inner chatter that happens inside you. So when your inner chatter is quietened, even for a few moments, you're actually listening in those moments. So you can start with beautiful meditations which we have. We've through all our programs, we have a lot of meditations that we offer for quietening the mind, or the inner chatter, or your inner voice, whatever you name it. You have a lot of meditations. One very simple meditation technique for your inner voice, for your inner chatter, is that you sit with yourself. And every morning you can start as 11 minutes or a 20 minutes process. Depending upon your schedule, you can actually make it either 11 or 21. What you do is you just sit with yourself and you do the Mahamantra technique. The Mahamantra is sitting in the squatting position, if you can sit, or sit straight in a chair if you can't sit on the floor. And then you completely take your focus from everything else external. First you start concentrating on your breath. Completely bring your awareness to your breath, the incoming and outgoing breath. The breath and the mind are directly related. If you break the mind, your breathing pattern breaks, which is your thoughts again. When your thought changes, your breath also changes accordingly. And because that's little difficult to get at, it's easier the other way around. When you concentrate on your breath, you're actually, kind of disconnecting from your mind itself. So that's why all meditation techniques begin with you focusing on your breath itself. So start focusing on your breath. Slowly inhale, slowly exhale. Completely be with the breath, with the airflow which is happening inside and outside you. And then just start with the humming. Which is it's just an it's like if you put your head inside an aluminium vessel and make a noise, that's the noise that would come out. It's not om or hum, or it's just M, the letter M, spoken with your lips closed. So it's and very important, keep your hands in Chin Mudra. Chin Mudra is this, where, yeah, that's right. Just keep your palms facing upward in Chin Mudra and use the Mahamantra. This is called the Mahamantra technique. This meditation very effectively works in quietening your mind, which is settling down the restlessness that happens inside you because of thoughts, and leaves you in a great state of that vibrant silence. And when there is silence inside you, what will happen? You'll automatically start listening to that silence, which is good, and you'll start listening to what's happening around you.
And start your day.
Yes.
Now, what happens if you're, a lot of the young people have written in about, being kind of frustrated with their parents, and they get, into a lot of emotion, and I'll just say angry, about something that's going on. When you're in that intense emotion, what kinds of things can you do, and maybe talk a little bit about what happens when you're in those intense emotions, such as anger?
That's a fantastic question, actually, and it's a very common situation in today's world, at least, where children go through a lot of emotional highs and lows because of the situations changing around the world. It's become like a global corporate world, literally. I remember in my childhood, there wasn't a concept of moms working at all. Not only my mom, I know neighborhood moms. Usually, maybe in a neighborhood there would be 5 houses in a neighborhood of 50 houses where moms would work, and that's a very it's like a very small portion of the entire neighborhood itself. But it's the other way around now. You hardly have any mom who doesn't work nowadays. With that, what happens is the child is kind of aloof most of the day, and literally probably late into the evening, where the parents come back, both of them are working, and they are out of the house a lot. The child is back from school or from college, and you see that you're literally aloof, cut off from any communication at all, or any being in any relationship at all. And that is one thing which triggers all these kinds of thoughts, where that you need some attention, or you need some support, or you need someone to talk to, and it's kind of a low feeling when there is nobody around. And that also in turn leads to this chaotic restlessness inside you, which again in turn, it's like a vicious circle that is triggered inside you. So even a small thing can actually impact you big time, and you get into a major anger mood, and that you have violent thoughts happening inside you. And all this basically boils down to the same thing, that the relationship which parents and children share, unfortunately, has gone through a tremendous transition now in this world, where all of them, as I said, are running around working in companies and busy with lives, that it's impacted the kids a lot. So a few things which can be done is, number one, when both the parents and the children, when both of them are able to get this. And I'm not saying it's wrong to work. I'm not saying you should not be a working parent. You should be, depending upon whatever, the challenges that you're facing in your life. I understand you'll have to work. But probably if you're a little more aware of what's happening with your child, a little awareness from your end, a little bit of energy that you can spend with them when you are with them, even if it is for a little time, if you have a quality time with the child, I think that would really make up a lot for your child recovering from all these moods. And this is for a parent. From a parent's perspective, I have 2 kids myself, and I've been working for 15 years now. So any quality time that you can spend with your child over a weekend, every day in the evening, it's like literally you make a calendar and say, this is the time that I spend with my child, and I'm not going to engage anything else in this time. Where you exclusively, absolutely have that time only for the child. And not that the child is just another small part of my life and life moves on and I can just handle that as well. No, I don't think that works. So the awareness from a parent's point of view really helps the relationship a lot. And for a child, whenever you have any emotion, the only thing I would ask the child to do is express. It often becomes a problem when you do not express what's happening inside you, because that gets bottled up and you suppress it and you just be with it, and it's literally you live in a hell. So I would ask children to express whatever is happening inside them, no matter how late your mom or pop comes home. Ensure that you talk to them. maintain a diary. That's a very good habit actually. When you write down what's happening inside you, when you verbalize it, a lot of it is already let out of you. It's just that you don't have a let out. You know, it's like there is a big pressure tank. It's like a pressure cooker, literally. Without a vessel which can help it let out, what would happen then? The pressure is building, and finally the pressure cooker just bursts one day. That's what is happening typically with children, and you will see that's why the rate at which children are having diseases has alarmingly increased over the past a decade, I can say. You know, go to any pediatric hospital, you'll see it's full of patients. Children as small as 3 years are diagnosed with depression, which is shocking. And I'm speaking about the Western audience when I say this. In India and probably the Eastern countries, it's not that much, so much depression, but it still is other things like migraines. It's shocking that small children of 4 years, 5 years have migraines. They have glasses, spectacles, and you know, typically all the other symptoms where you know that the child needs attention and it doesn't get it. The child needs a let out to let out its emotions and it doesn't get it. So for children, it would be simple techniques like maintain a daily diary, write down what's happening inside you and express it out. Share it with your brothers, with your sisters. If you're not comfortable with your mother, with your father, but definitely share it. Keep sharing periodically what's happening inside you. But specifically at the point when you feel angry and you really want to completely just blow out with anger, there are a few techniques that you can do. A catharsis technique, which we do in our Ananda Spurana program, that's the Life Bliss program level 1, is the Manipuraka Shuddhi Kriya. This technique involves you just shouting and letting out your emotions. You can do it in a closed room, and you know, you can in fact go one step further, keep a pillow and just punch the pillow. As long as you know that the emotion is boiling inside you, just keep punching the pillow continuously, and you will see at one point that you will actually come out of the emotion itself because the anger is released. You can do that. You can write it in your book. Or you can do a very intense workout. If you are in the age of 16 and above, you can actually go to the gym or just do running. Just run. If you can run in your neighborhood, nothing like it. All that emotion that's pent up inside you, the anger or the vengeance that you have, put it into action. The problem arises when you do not act on it and you just keep it inside you.
And you know, that's a great point, because like you said, a lot of the research now is showing that a high increase in relation to depression and antidepressants, and you know, unfortunately even the preschoolers are rising and using antidepressants, and so it's really obvious from the research that, you know, the kids are holding it inside. And you know, that's why it's great for this show is that, you know, there's a lot of times where they don't want to, there's nowhere to ask the questions. They can't ask parents and they don't want to ask their peers, and you'd always think that youth will ask their peers. You know, that was the first thing that I thought until I looked at the research, and it's just like they're worried about, you know, how people perceive themselves.
Sure.
So a lot of it is being held up inside. So it's really kind of about, you know, learning how to deal with those. And just like you said, it's a pressure cooker. I always talk, it's like, you know, you're trying to hold a ball underwater. And, you know, the more that you try and hold it, the more it's trying to pop up. So it's like you said about communication, of saying it's okay to say, I'm angry right now, and step away, and then deal with that anger. And so if it's punching a pillow, or if it's, you know, going for, you know, keeping active, using a diary, doing specific things to allow that, so you don't get into that cycle of, you know, being into this complete anger, because it doesn't feel good inside. After yelling at a parent or a peer, you know, you get then into guilt feelings or not feeling very good about yourself, that you know, you've been into that cycle, and sometimes that's hard to break. So
that's true.
So yeah, so that's some really good tips that we can use in anger. Now, I was just wondering, the different emotions, they have different ways of communicating. Is the communication different for, let's say, depression, like we talked, or anger, or stress? You know, stress is kind of a high one for youth that they've been talking about. Is it different for?
It's actually It's not that it's different, but each one has a unique, a little difference in the way it expresses through the child. If you see, you know, for example, when I am stressed out, you have a high energy inside you. You have a lot of energy inside you, but that is the unproductive energy. It's like it's a lot of anxiety inside you, there's a lot of restlessness inside you, and that energy you don't know what to do. And often kids tend to overeat when they are stressed. Stress brings in a thing where you want to do something, and that craving thing, you know, you want to crave, you cannot let out the energy again, you cannot use it, it's pent up inside you. And you are so hyperactive and overexcited that you feel that when you eat, you feel good. When you eat, whatever the hormones and chemicals that get released in your body, you feel good with that. But unfortunately, it's so harmful for you. And that's why you will see the obesity rate of children in the world today is again alarmingly increasing. It's quite high. I have seen so many children where doctors put them on a diet. Absolute unfortunate thing to happen. At the age of 4 and 5, doctors say don't take milk products, don't take milk, don't take high fat foods. You know, so this happens often. Overeating itself is not like because they overeat because they like the food. It's only because there is a stress penting up inside. There's a lack of something else which the child thinks he can actually fulfill. Temporarily, the child thinks that when I eat food, I feel nice, and that fulfilled feeling, that feeling of being full, being nice and peaceful comes. But unfortunately, it goes as quickly as it comes. So when you eat, you feel nice for those few seconds, moments or minutes, and then it's back. And then you'll want to grab another bowl of popcorn or something. So that's one thing which happens with stress, at least. Like that, if you see for depression, it's, as I said, you know, that aloofness, the aloneness that the child experiences because of nobody to connect with, literally, is a very powerful thing which puts the child into depression. Not only that, when you look at the lifestyle of the child, the children and youth today, if you look at their lifestyle, typically they stay late night playing games. And I think one of the most unfortunate thing which has happened with children especially is that they've lost touch with playing with human beings. You know, all the games that when I go back to my life, whether it was playing a throw ball or a football, or, you know, playing all your local games. Each city, each country has their own game. It all would be where you are playing with the other. I remember playing with a group of friends with dolls, actually playing dramas, where there is a constant interaction with a human being, both physically, verbally, emotionally. You're connecting with the other when you are playing. Because when you're playing, you play it seriously. Children play games very seriously. And you're emotionally connecting with another human being. And there, you're developing a bond. You're developing a relationship. And that helps you let out whatever's, if there is any emotion inside you. Unfortunately, now, there's a small difference. We play with computers.
Which is, I was just, when I was back in Canada, where I'm from, I was just having lunch, and there was a group of young people sitting beside me, and they were emailing each other.
Yes.
And that's just not uncommon, you know, and they're constantly like on their systems or computers, and, you know, if it was either their girlfriends or boyfriends for emailing, you know, and I think that they don't realize that, just like you said, we've lost kind of learning how to communicate with each other.
True.
And then it's frustrating for them that they can't get their words out, or they're not able to, and we call that Vishuddhi of, you know, closing up, you know, of this chakra here. And then, you know, again, and we have these problems sometimes of depression or stress or frustration that, you know, they can't get their points across.
Yes.
And so it's just kind of this constant battle. And
absolutely.
So, understanding, you know, what impact that is.
Absolutely. Because basically, Chandra, it's that human beings, the psychology that we have, we are social. By birth, we are wired to be social. Every species on the planet is wired to be social. If you look at animals, they live so beautifully in their communities. Each one of us, each living being is social. Unfortunately, technology has killed the social aspect of human beings. And actually, not only human beings, technology has reached out to animals. Various animals have also actually been slaughtered in the name of technology. You get pets home, and even they get depressed because you don't have the active social networking happening, either in terms of a touch. When you play games, you're actually touching, you're actually falling against each other, you're actually kicking each other. Each of that is a signal, is a communication that you're sending across to the other and to yourself. And that doesn't happen when you are sitting with systems continuously, when you're sitting with computer games. It doesn't really happen. And as you rightly said, it's such an unfortunate and sad trend that they sit across the room and they're either texting each other or they're emailing each other. They're actually chatting on a Facebook. And the more and more you live with a machine, the more and more you actually experience the lack of that, that small thing which is being a social animal, that's completely lost for you.
And I worked at a college for a few years counseling, and I was really surprised too about these virtual games that, and just like you were saying with, obesity, and that we're trying to fill ourselves because we're not able to, we're getting away from communication and being social beings.
Yes.
And so there's this emptiness inside of us. And so we're trying to fill it in all different ways. And virtual games, of course, trying to recreate ourselves. So we're, making up, all of our, we wish or hope that thing, and we're not feeling good about our own bodies, and so we're recreating it and having relationships within kind of these virtual. So it's a very big trend that's happening that's really impacting who our true nature is, and that is about being kind of our social beings. So that's what I love about the show, is just that there's a lot of times kids are really confused today, and they don't know why. They don't really understand what the difficulties are. And so it's just a real pleasure for you to be on, and for us to have reaching out to young people and to kind of say, this is kind of what the impact is. Games there's no problem. We all can have it. It's just in moderation and understanding
Absolutely.
Kind of what really is impacting, because like you said, there's a huge rate that's happening.
Totally.
And we're getting away from who our true nature is, and we're filling it with all these different things. And so it's nice that we're having some tips and some ways that they can help of being able to change that around.
Especially with games, I would say, Chandra, that if they can have again a calendar for games, definitely, as you rightly said, don't get deprived that you should not be using a computer. It's not like that. As long as you're aware, as long as you have the control on what you're doing, I think it's fine. It's absolutely fine to sit with a computer game for maybe half hour or 1 hour. It's dangerous when you get into unawareness, when you just are, when the computer becomes the boss and you just are with it for hours and hours. So definitely a half hour, an hour is fine for you to sit and play an online game. But then you should compulsorily ensure that you also have friends whom you can go out and play. Play a game of football, play a game of any outdoor game or any indoor game, play a game of carom, a game of maybe chess. But I would really encourage group games where you're sitting with a group of people and you're actually playing, you're talking it out and you're expressing it, and that is something which can really help you in who you are and in what happens inside you, because you have a greater understanding of how human beings work, greater understanding of who people are, and the exposure that you get with that is immense.
I'm going to say, when, like I said, I was counseling, that they were feeling very uncomfortable, because I said, just for 1.5 hour, put your phone away, like put all that away and just, do whatever, if it's going for coffee or game or whatever, and came back more stressed, because it was, they didn't realize how attached that they are.
Exactly.
And so it's being able to slowly kind of put those things away, to just realize that it's taking over, like I said, our power. And so it's just putting it away for a short period and doing it even 5 or 10 minutes and making it a bigger period.
True.
In order for us to get back to how to communicate, because you're getting into a corporate world and a work world, and there's a lot of more stress put upon people to come into the work world, and you're going to have to learn how to communicate.
Yes.
And so it's becoming difficult in interviews, and because they're not able to communicate who they are. And,
exactly.
So it's just it's good for us to start with learning about the techniques and things that you can do to assist in the communication. So
yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up. Actually, yes, I would say that communication is really about not what's happening in the world around you. not what the other is saying or not what life is presenting to you. Communication is really about how you respond to what's happening. Because 99% you will notice that whatever you are left with in terms of a result or in terms of an emotion is not because of what is happening around you, but because of your response to what is happening around you. So simply put, if you are able to be aware of what's happening inside you, you're able to handle your emotions effectively, handle your thought patterns effectively, you automatically become very good in communication. You'll be able to put across, because you'll become better in listening. First, you'll be able to listen to your own self. Right now, there is so much of unawareness and unconsciousness in the way we listen to even our own selves. We hardly listen to ourselves. So you'll get that first when you're more aware of what's happening with you. And number two, you will also be able to definitely listen to what's happening outside to the other. And both of these will actually take your communication to the next level. So a few things, as you rightly said, even when you ask someone to put aside their phone for half hour, it's a very difficult job. And that's because now in today's world, we majorly live with the mind. The human mind is so attracted and is so comfortable with something that it knows. Anything that it can be. It can be a phone, it can be, a computer game, anything that you have been doing for a period of time and you get comfortable with, the mind is not ready to let go of that thing. And there comes the problem, because you're so full with what you already know and you're practicing the same things, just living like, an automated machine itself. And that is why when we say for half hour practice not doing this, we've been doing it completely all the time, it becomes a very frightening thing. Because the moment I put aside something known, I'm left with something unknown. But we fail to realize that only when I actually step on to the unknown will I become spontaneous. Will the creativity in me show up? Human beings by nature are creative. We are spontaneous. We are energy. All that will express only when you venture into the domain of the unknown. Unfortunately, we are so stuck with the domain of the known because of the mind. So directly put, as a technique, what we can do is three things. Meditation, meditation and meditation. Because meditation is the only medicine for the disease called the mind.
And so a lot of kids talk to me about, being with the world, and I can't speak in India, so, but North America, it's just move. And kids are so hyper of just, there's no downtime.
Yes.
They're just on this so they're saying, I can't meditate. Like my mind's going so quickly and I'm running from here into there. And so meditation's just not going to work for me. So do you have any suggestions in relation to meditation and how that can...
It's very simple. It all begins with only one thing, your willingness to do it. If you have the willingness to do it, I agree, it will be difficult in the beginning. It may not be easy, but as long as you have the willingness and you're ready to experiment each day, a little bit more, that's how you grew up. You never ran the first day. As a kid of maybe a year old or 9 months old, you had to put the first step somewhere. It was not easy and you somehow did it and now you're running. So it's no different. It's just that there isn't a willingness where you are right now and you think it's a big thing or you think it's not for you. But before it becomes too late, before you're actually on a hospital bed taking treatment for some chronic illness, wake up. Start with maybe 5 minutes a day. Even when you are like sitting doing something, just 5 minutes, switch off from everything and just sit and see what happens. And then do 5 minutes a day for a week. If you think you can't sit, like just sitting and doing nothing is difficult, as I said, every day do the Maha Mantra. Don't sit simply, but do the You will notice that the first 1 week as you're doing everything else will be revolving in your head. You'll be thinking of a show or you'll be thinking of something else or something else. That's okay. Continue doing it. The important thing to note is don't get stopped. Don't give up. The problem arises when you give up. And you'll actually see it will work only when you're willing to take it on. So first is have the willingness inside you. Know that this will definitely directly impact the quality of your life. It will make you very effective. It will make you very productive where you are, and that's what you want in life, isn't it? So once you know that as an understanding, when you internalize that, and then you have the willingness, okay, I'm willing to experiment with this, I think half of the game is done. Then all you need to do is every day sit for the first 1 week for 5 minutes with the Mahamantra. Then maybe increase it to 10 minutes. And as you're doing it, ask yourself, am I doing it sincerely? Am I just being, all you need to do is just be with the sound. When you're humming, be with the humming, nothing else needs to be done. Anything that comes in, just push it away. You have the ability to push it away. Be aware that I'm not supposed to think anything else now but the humming. And come back, get yourself back to the humming. 10 minutes a day of only the Mahamantra humming really works on your system marvelously. So if to begin with, you can start with that. And then you will realize that as you are increasing the minutes from 10 to maybe 12 to maybe 15, you will actually know that it's working on you. And as an effect of that, you will see that the way you relate to people, you will see that the way you communicate with people actually transforms without you working on communication exclusively. Just this can give you effective communication.
So be very kind to yourself. So
yes,
it's something that we're getting back to who we are in our true nature, and that sometimes we've unlearned that about of just kind of being natural about how to get back to that. So sometimes we have to reverse that and start to relearn it again. And so just to be very kind to yourself and just try those. And even sometimes if you're in the car for a moment, going between activity, it's just a good time, and it's like okay to just say I'm just meditating. I'm just doing my so it's okay, and the more that we just say it out to somebody, it's just an okay thing. So is there anything else that you wanted to state? I think we're
so I just want to
time. So
yeah, sure. I just wanted to share before we end that first, thank you so much for having me here. It's been a great pleasure speaking to all of y'all. Second is, as you said, really be kind to yourself, be compassionate. You deserve a lot of love and compassion. And one way to do that is stand up for yourself. Really stand up for yourself and take this on, that I will evolve to the next level. I will grow to the next level. I will come out of whatever I am in right now. Use these simple techniques, and most importantly, do write back to us. Write to us if it's working for you. Write to us if it's not working for you. And we are always here. Remember, we are a friend of you forever. So please write back to us, letting us know how it's working for you.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us, and absolutely, please, write into us if it doesn't make sense or there's any questions whatsoever. Please, we're here to answer those, and Mama Nisha, I'm sure will come back and be a guest, and we can expand on it. But like I said, we're here for you, and we're here to answer any of your questions. And you're not alone. This helps a lot of people. And you think, don't ever think it's a silly question. There is no silly question. If it's true to yourself, if you're having a difficulty or there's a conflict, then it's just what you're going through, and we will answer it and we'll help you through it. So we thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday. Nithyananda.
Nithyananda.